Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. The next comment and question comes from Danger Dad Rockerboy. Brilliant name. And this is in response to is my system SY85 banjexed if the disk drive fails? And Danger Dad writes, hi, I have a couple of questions. On the USB drive, you kindly answered some before. Yeah, well, I'm always answering questions, but here we go. If I have a USB drive, can I just download samples from the internet companies and pay them, or are those for doors? Thanks, sorry if it's an obvious question. Well, it's not obvious because in theory the USB drive acts the same way as a disk drive. If you format a folder on the drive as an image of a disk, and then you write to that disk with a compatible WAV file onto that disk, then theoretically, yes, you can load a WAV file into the SY85. But you have to have a compatible WAV file. It has to be in the format the SY85 is expecting. What you can't do is you can't just drop WAV files onto a USB key and insert it in the USB drive. Okay, so that's a no-no. And the reason for that is because the SY85 is expecting to see stuff in a certain format. So it's expecting to see the USB drive is effectively cloning a disk, and it's expecting to see that disk drive format as an image, which the USB emulator then interprets as a disk and then reads the contents effectively of the image. So the theory is you have to set it up right, and then you can use it as long as you are downloading the files from the internet in the right format that the SY85 is expecting. And there are, if you go and read the instruction manuals, you should see where it specifies what the format is for a WAV file to be loaded into the SY85. And off the top of my head, I can't tell you what it is, but it's a standard Yamaha format that we used it for years. So it's that format is what you're after. Hope that makes this a little bit clearer. Next one comes from Directionless Studios. I hope you're not directionless. Mind you, having said that, a lot of my composing recently has been very directionless. And this is in response to Will Muse Make Me a Better Musician, a video I did in October 2021. Oh, let me just get myself sorted on this seat. And Directionless writes, I have the same version of Receptor. Had to replace the power supply recently, thinking about cloning the hard drive. So if there ever crashes, there's a spare. I don't think there's a proper OS installation method for the end user. It's all proprietary. I'll come on to that in a minute. One thing that you can get some unsupported VSTs to work, even though they're not packaged for Muse specifically. You do this by loading the files into the experimental folder on the hard drive, and then going to the OS settings and running scan for new plugins. Usually the unsupported ones won't work, but for some it will. For example, I got the standard version of Silenthia 1 VST to run on it. It sounds great. Yeah. Again, I wrote this reply before some of the recent stuff I've been doing. Now, I've been trying to clone this thing for the last week to clone it to a SATA drive. I can clone it to an ATA, but I want to clone it to a SATA drive. And I've been having lots of problems because I really want to go to an SSD. it's quite funny actually, because I said earlier on, I hope you're not as directionless. Well, that's kind of my music playing for the last couple of years. And it's good to hear about some other people's journeys on the Receptor. Obviously, probably before you see this video, there are going to be a couple of other videos about the whole cloning exercise on this thing. So I've got two projects I'm trying to achieve. One is I want to try and get Complete 5, which was the version that was supported by OS 1.7 and Rev C, version 1 Rev C, which is what this machine is. So I'm trying to get hold of a copy of Complete 5 so that I can load it onto here, because you can do that. And the second thing is, as I said, I want to fit an SSD to this. For exactly the same reasons that Directionless has outlined. Now, one of the things I have found about this, and it goes into more detail on the videos that I've been doing about this, is that the information about Muse, there are some very, very good sources out there, and I actually have come across a really good source, and he's been helping me. So thank you to Andy, who has 4 of these things. But his are upgraded versions of, so even though he has a Rev C, he has a Rev C that has a 64-bit operating system on it rather than 32-bit operating system that is on my Rev C, and that was done by Muse before they went bust. So there are some similarities and there are some dissimilarities between his setup and the setup I've got. I think the bottom line is I've got to go through a series of probably steps to be able to get this cloned. Now, the first thing I do want to do is I want to clone the hard drive out of this to an SSD. Now, I have proved that an SSD will run in this. Whether I can get the whole thing up and running on an SSD, that's a different question. But if you have Muse resources that are good Muse resources, and one of the biggest issues I've had with a lot of the forums is people have said things in the forums that in some instances just isn't true. But that's the nature of a forum. People put comments into forums to get their name mentioned sometimes, rather than actually the comment being something that's useful to the rest of the members on forums. So keep an eye out for the videos on this thing. The first couple are called Revenge of the Clone, because it has been revenge. But they will carry on. I've got some more to film. I've got some more legwork to do. But it would be interesting to see, to get this more stable and get it backed up. And then I've also done another video which I've expelled some of the myths around this thing, in terms of what can it do. Like, it can work with a wireless keyboard and mouse, because that's how I'm using it at the moment. So there are lots of bits and bobs to go. We'll see where we go.